Hello, today we've got 15th of August 2011. Today I would like to tell you about mind and identification with thinking and what we perceive as real. As you may know that we actually learn through experience, and you probably cannot say something that's beyond your mind. Of course, if you're meditating and you have access to intuition and divine realms, you can say something you don't know mentally, and that's okay. That's how it is. And now, let's concentrate on mind, because I don't talk to people who went through the process and they understand that, because they don't need to hear that, because they know it, they feel it and all that stuff. I just want to share that information with people who actually don't achieve that understanding so far. So here we got the mind, and whatever you think about something and you imagine something and all that stuff, right? You actually observe and go into something that doesn't exist. Whatever you imagine, whatever you think about someone, those things doesn't exist. And through the path of realization and realized that understanding that that is like that, like I just told you. And the other thing I'd like to tell you about is people used to think a lot of the things, right? And that based off their what they learned, right? It not don't need to be true, and for most of the time it's not true. And through all that thinking, they just dilute their reality. They just look on their thoughts and they just close something in their box, and that's what I think about that, right? And they think what they think about about that object or situation is what actually is there, right? But other people perceived that situation through their own mind. But that doesn't change the fact that situation is just one situation and got one exploration, right? Because there is only a thing that's happening in that moment. It doesn't need to be explained because it's happened. You can observe as it is. You don't need to think about it to see what there is. And most of the mental pain that we cause to ourselves actually comes from that deluded perspective that we observe something that doesn't exist. Whatever you got some kind of problem and you start to worry about it and imagine that it be something like that or that, and in the end you see all those things haven't happened. And now you can ask yourself, why should you actually think all about that stuff if it haven't happened? And through all those thinking, you just cause yourself a pain that, oh my god, it'll be like that, I'll be sad, I'll be this or that, right? I would like to tell you about the talk I had with one girl yesterday, and she told me that um, when she hears something from the other people about relationships and she sees something similar in her life, she just label her experience with those things, right? Instead of looking at that experience as it is, because it's all random. You can't close something in a tiny box, and it's never totally the same like the other things was, right? There's a lot of factors and other things that you have to be aware of to just look on situation and to know or see or do anything with that, right? So if something happened to someone, doesn't mean it happened to you as well. I mean those bad things. And she asked me how I can change my life to don't think about those things and don't worry about them. Because when I talked to her, I told her that she observes something that doesn't exist, and those things doesn't come in the future either. So it's totally nonsense. And there is actually one solution, because after those um, thoughts and all that stuff, we came to the conclusion that cause of those things, of those suffering, of those problems, is actually a process of thinking, right? So, first of all, you have to stop your thinking process, and it doesn't mean that you can't do anything, or you can't talk, you can't do something, because either now I don't think about anything and I still can fluently talk about what I want to tell without stopping my concentration, because I don't need to think about it, I just know it. So I don't need to think about something I know. Isn't that simple? And then I just explained her how it's actually working. Like I just told you, we just hurt ourselves by the thinking about it, about something that doesn't exist, right? And I told her that the power of the present moment, which is looking at something without labeling it and without impact from the past, without whatever is happening to the past, and you pick the decision about whatever I got some kind of similar experience, I will feel this way or that way. When you go through the meditation and you realize from where that decision emerges, right, and you accept all those things, where there is no fight inside you, then you have acceptance, then you have peace, and then you won't worry about anything, because you look on reality as it is. If you have a problem, you just go and solve it, and you don't need to think about 10,000 things to do the simple thing to solve your problem. And that's really it. And now I'd like to tell you another thing, that based on what I just said, it comes to your thinking process is some kind of problem, right? And it is. And only through the power of the present moment you can transcend your consciousness, your mind, to perceive things as it is. And it doesn't mean that you have no problems and all that stuff, but when you're peaceful, you have more space to get some kind of creative way to get out of that problem or whatever it is. And if you can understand, whenever you are in fear, that fear takes over you and you act upon this fear, right? And when you see some kind of catastrophe, a fire or something like that, if people stay calm and they just leave that place, there will be a lot less victims, because panic, those people just wanna run away and step on each other and kill each other, right? If they just live in really polite manner, there will be a lot less victims. I hope you understand what I mean by that. So if you act through the peace, you have more space and creativity to solve your problems. And those problems seems to be smaller, because you don't think about a lot of things that doesn't exist in that moment. Because of the label you put on it from past. Pretty same with people. If you label someone to some category or something instead of look at someone, after some time you came to the conclusion that that's what you've been thinking about that about those person, about that person, of about those people, is not true, because all of that is just it's just imagination, it's just a mental concept about, it's like a thinking about something. You just imagine that that thing is something else that it is in reality, right? So that's why it's so important to understand your mind a little bit more, so you can get out of suffering and solve your problems in a different way and really be happy and feel that peace which is inside, but it's covered by stress, by your bad decision, by your mental ideas that this is bad, those people probably not gonna like me, or wherever you go to the exam, or wherever you go to the work, that I may not be able to handle that situation. And whatever you worry about it, it's make it even more difficult. When I go to the different place, I just concentrate on what I'm doing now to do it good, and it's always fine. And that's it. Thank you for your time to listen to all those videos. I hope you get something out of it, and even if I help just one person, that's really good enough for me. Have a nice day.